Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of my new Let's Play of Stellar Monarch 2. Now, I have played a lot of 4X games before on my channel, as you probably know, but while those games strive to give as much detail and control to the player, this game takes a very different approach. In Stellar Monarch 2, you don't play as a hands-on planetary manager or empire or nation manager with a checklist of chores and tasks you need to fulfill. You are instead the Emperor. Emperor with a capital E. You rule from the top, not the ground level. This means that you are not worrying about where to place your next farm, what ships to build and where to send them, or whether this mining station has enough workers. Instead, you are appointing ministers, dealing with noble houses, handling plots, organizing banquets, balancing courtly politics, and trying to hold together a galactic empire that's always a few steps away from full-scale rebellion and a total collapse. It's a game about macro decisions, intrigue and strategic delegation and tasks, not about issuing direct orders. I can quite honestly say that this is a breath of fresh air for me, and it intrigued me a lot when I started playing it. I understand the game gets a lot of flag as well from people playing it from, who are not exactly adjusted to this kind of mindset or this kind of game, but I don't really care much about that. I always appreciate original games and concepts, and this is definitely one of them. The game is not perfect, far from it actually, but it's still being developed. It just got its first DLC this month actually, and I can hope that the author, yes, this is an indie game with one developer, I hope that the author will continue working on it as it has quite the potential. Anyways, back to it. In this series, we'll try to survive the constant chaos of imperial politics, expand our dominion, and hopefully avoid being stabbed in the back by our own ministers. How long we can stay on the throne? Well, we're about to find out. As usual, the first episode will be dedicated to the game mechanics. I'll try to explain how they work, where the pressure points and limitations are, what our goals will be, and how we will achieve them. Then I'll try to show you the first few rounds, and starting from episode 2, we are going to jump into the full gameplay. So, let's get started. The game is actually very easy to set up. It is, from what I understand, mostly semi-randomized, so every playthrough is a bit different. You got 3 options here, 3 scenarios: the enlightened ruler, the conqueror of stars, and the unifier of the empire. Now, the enlightened ruler is the balanced scenario with a bit of everything. Conqueror of the Stars is more focused on conquest, and Unifier is more focused on diplomacy. We're gonna take the Enlightened Ruler. There's Imperial mode and there's Throne mode. I'm gonna go with the Imperial mode. The Throne mode is even more limited, where you do not even select technologies, or you cannot issue any orders in regards to your ships. So let's go with Imperial mode. There are actually extra rules that you can also choose. I'm not really gonna play with any of these because I'm not entirely sure how well the game is gonna go. The reason for that is that the difficulty is represented by these 9 options, 1 through 9, and depending on what you choose, you will have a different experience. Now, my last game was at 5, and I kinda didn't have any issues with that, so let's go with 6, which is the first one that is seen as hard. It balances and affects power, economy, and technological progress of aliens, how far away some vicious aliens start, the ship manufacturing cost, budget changes, dynasty points pool, base tax, so pretty much everything, bureaucracy, others, free upkeep, so on and so on, so on. So we're also going to get extra rebel points generated, which is kind of something that is very important, and that's your biggest threat. But still, I want to try it at hard. We'll see if we're going to make it through. Again, 5 was actually fairly okay, so I'm hoping that 6 for our first playthrough is not going to be that bad. If we go through it and succeed, I'm going to jump to 7, 8, or 9 during the next playthrough, because I would like to at least try one more down the line. The game speed, you can have quick, standard, or long. We're gonna go with long because I enjoy it. Galaxy size can be tiny, small, normal, big, and huge. We're gonna go with huge, which is 1000 systems. But you'll see that it doesn't make really much of a difference. I just like the long and huge because it lets the game run a little bit longer and gives you a little bit more of a... Well, you'll see. And there's two things you can choose. You can start as Young Empire or Old Empire. Young Empire means that you're starting with just a single planet, which is really nice. Old Empire lets you start a little bit more established, but we're going to go with Young because, again, I like to challenge myself. Now we're going to create a dynasty. We have 3 tasks ahead of ourselves: Royal House, Emperor, and Prux. We're going to start with the Royal House. We're going to be the Royal House Aurelian. And we're going to choose which logo. I actually like the first one. Yeah, let's keep the first one. We can change different colors, but I kind of like the purple one. That's a regal color. And we can then choose an emperor, which is just for flavor. There's no real effect of this one. So let's have someone who looks regally. At least a little bit. Yeah, this guy has a regal look. So we're gonna go for Emperor, middle-aged or old. I'm gonna go with middle-aged. I like that. And his name is gonna be Marcus. And then we have perks. Most of these you will see in effect a very short way when we start the game. But you have 9 points, and there is a bunch of these that you can choose from. I'm gonna take it from the top. I like the sociologists because it gives you a jump start on certain technologies. I really like the propagandist. That's gonna be a really good one as well. All imperial officials start with a loyalty of +2. That's actually pretty big. And you still have 2 points left. Research points, generals, traders, diplomats. Okay, let's go with tax collectors and wealthy. That's gonna give us more money and more money in our private treasure. Actually, if we didn't use these, we would get extra stability. That's interesting, but we're gonna still go with this. Alright, and now let's start our new dynasty and jump into the game. So this is the galaxy. This is the galaxy, this is us, and right from the bat we are having an issue for me. Alright, well, let me just start by explaining how the game works. So, each one of these points is a star system represented by an actual planet. So it's not that complicated. Terra is 1 planet, Blork is 1 planet, Charos is 1 planet, Tigos is 1 planet, but they each have a little bit of a different values. Vodables has a little bit of fertility, so it has 2 food. It has a little bit of ore deposits, it has 3. Lenara has just the ore deposits. Sunny has nothing, really. Bork is amazing. Bork has 8 fertility, so it provides a ton of food, and it has also a lot of ore. Some of these enemy planets are already occupied by aliens, so you can see, for example, Nas is already occupied. It's a lava-like, well, it's a ancient, there's ancient ruins on it, but it's a planet that's volcanically active. From the pictures you can see it has ore deposits 7, so it is very good for mineral production, but that's as much information as you're gonna get and as much as you will need. We will never really build any cities or anything, we will just colonize overall. So well, actually, let me point out one thing first, because this is actually gonna come up a lot as we're gonna play. The game tries to seem very simple. It tries really hard. Like, it's gonna tell you, well, there's some minerals, there's some food, there's some shapes. But many, if not all of the game systems actually have a huge amount of calculations running in the background. The battles are simulated, the armies actually do fight, you just don't really see it. It's a clever system which gives you the feeling of simplicity, but every step and every action that you actually take in the game has a real impact on the playthrough. So it might be a little bit deceiving. Some of the comments on the Steam page actually mentions that the game actually plays itself. It's not really true. You just have very limited options on how to affect things directly, but your overall strategy and priorities have a huge impact on all of the calculations that are running in the back. So don't let the game deceive you by seeming too simple, because that's how it is presented to you. You are the emperor, you're sitting in Terra, you run the empire, but the things that are happening in the actual game have a lot of depth and are based on a lot of modifiers. So I just want to make that very clear, because some of the things that I will be saying will be seeming extremely simple, but they're really not that simple as they might seem on first look. So we have these systems and we will need to expand. You actually win the game by fulfilling 15 achievements of these. You can choose any of them and fulfill any of them. If you achieve them, you win. You don't have to achieve any, you just need to achieve 15 of them. So I hope that makes sense. We can, for example, have 5, 9, and 11 centralization, for this 50 and 70 stability, control 2, 3, or 400 planets, have a population of 100 million, 500 million, actually 100 million, 500 million, and 1 billion, I guess. Average planets loyalty 60 or 80%. Never let any rebellion happen. Do not have rebellion happen more than once. At least 80% of galaxy is civilized. Researched at least one level 10 technology in each fields of science. All great noble houses are at least neutral. It is 4 friendly great noble houses, and the royal house has 99 of 40. So you can see that you don't even have to expand that much. You can basically focus on the politics and on colonization. You can focus on centralization. It's kind of fun. You can choose your own goals, and you will see that we will naturally get some of these filled because they have to happen eventually. So this is how you win the game. And what can we actually do? Well, we have an empire court. The court is represented by these randomly generated characters. We have our ministries, which are filled by randomly generated courtiers. So some of these, as you can see, already are ministers, some are advisors, some are diplomats. We can pass laws, and we have a summary over here. We can further interact with noble houses, which are over here. We can influence the Great Council, which is represented by the noble houses that we just talked about. We have the ability to change taxes and budget allocation. We appoint what research is going to be done. We can look at projects. We can build a major project, or we can start major projects. We can steer the economy. We can, to a certain degree, affect what our fleets look like, who is leading them, which kind of admirals. Again, these are randomly generated. Each fleet actually has more than an admiral. It has an admiral, vice admiral, and then several commodores. Commodores, colonels, and I actually don't know what this guy is. I never really thought about it. He's a fleet officer. My duty is to track and investigate potential traitors. Okay. So I never really saw that in action. You can allocate where these fleets are going to be. You can choose what your squadrons are going to look like, and you can, if you want to, but this is also possible to be handled by the AI. You can design and enhance your fleets. We can also set our global policy towards aliens, and we can of course decide on but what we are going to colonize and when. So I ran through this to give you a general idea of how the game is played, and now we're going to look at it a little bit more in detail. So, first things first. As I said, we have the planet Terra. This is our homeworld. You can see that it has loyalty, it has security that is coming from the rebels, which are the biggest threat to us. Now, you can see that we have one centralization, we have 47 stability, which is really important. Centralization actually affects how your empire runs. So for each one you get reduced legislation points, you get a bonus to reform adoption speed, you increase your tax efficiency, but you also increase bureaucracy upkeep, you increase maximum numbers on core worlds, and you decrease noble houses' opinions. Which is actually, you can see that it has a lot of negatives and positives. So it, full centralization might not be the best route in some cases. We have stability. Currently we have 10. We're getting base 10. Oh no, sorry, we have 47. We're getting base 10 from base. We're getting 29 from monarchism of the noble houses. We get 8 from the imperial court, and we get 0 from reforms. Now we're actually getting bonuses from stability. As you can see, if we have stability of 10 plus, we actually lower the rebel strength gain. When you have 30 plus, you actually get 10 extra administrative points per turn. If we'd have 50, we would double output of a heraldic bureau. If we get 70, we get extra legal power or 0.5 legal power per turn, and above 90, our royal house gets extra 9 authority. This one is the most important statistics for us to check or manage, I would say. This is the rebels or rebellion preparation. Now you can see that it's currently through 26.02%. When this one goes up to 5,000, a full-scale rebellion will break out. You do not really fight the rebellion when it breaks out. That's going to be done by your nobles and by your fleets and by your officers and special operations. But the longer the rebellion is in effect and the longer the stakes, the more your stability will suffer. And if your stability falls to 0, your empire crumbles and it's game over. I actually never had that happen because I manage the rebellion as well as I can, though I can already tell you that this is actually starting really brutal. We're starting with 51 turn gain, and that is not great. That's actually really bad. So we'll need to manage this really carefully and make sure that we improve on that as much as we can. Then there is population. You can see that we have 5,000 million. So we would have 5 billion Terrans. We have 54 happiness. Oh, actually, so I read that completely wrong because this is 100,000 million. So this would be, this would be 1 billion. So 100 billion, 500 billion, and 1 trillion. Okay, I read it completely wrong. I apologize for that. Then we have happiness. The higher the happiness, the lower the rebellion gain. As you can see, we're getting probably, from planet rebel support plus 49. So we need to increase happiness. If we can increase happiness, this is gonna drop dramatically. And the best way how you can increase happiness is providing your people with more food. We actually have a high food insecurity. I already saw it here. You can see that food coverage is only 51%, so we'll need to invest in food production quite extensively. Now we can do it, of course, by improving our economy, but we would also do very well to, for example, colonize Borg as fast as possible, because this one is going to provide us with even more food than Terra itself is providing. So that's going to be a big boost to our happiness. Then we have the imperial treasury, which is being automatically increased every turn. And we have our private treasury, which is basically my own money that we can use as we see fit. So these are the main statistics that you will see on the screen. We are limited to our actions by Emperor focus points. We have currently 9. We will be getting 7 each audience. I'm going to explain what that means, but just know that these are probably the most valuable points that we have, and there's very little way how to gain them. Administrative points are basically the imperial government points. You use those on many actions. It's basically your administrative power. Then we have the heraldic bureau, which gives honorary titles to your to minor nobles, and you can use it in various ways. And registration points, which come from your noble houses, and these are used to draw laws, which strengthen your empire and your general performance. So we understand the things that we will have to work with. Now, how do we work with them? Every few turns, I think. Okay, you get them every 14 turns. Okay, every 14 turns you have an audience, which is basically you gathering everybody in your court and interacting with them. You get random events, but you can also issue interesting orders. You can summon people, and you can organize banquets or review imperial officials. So it is the important turn. Every 14 turns you get this audience, which you can use to, I would say, influence your empire in a major way. And this is also when you gain these emperor focus points. Now, you will get people from your court randomly appearing there. Most importantly, your ministers. Now, each of these ministers and each of these court members, as you can see, have 3 statistics. They got competence, they got loyalty, and they get charisma. Now, the competence is what is, I would say, the most important for our ministers, and we haven't really gained a good hand here. This number down here shows you what the efficiency of your ministries are. Now, Treasury, for example, has Ronan Chester working in it. He has competence 16, which is, relatively good. It's not great, but it's not bad either. Normally, I would like to aim for something like 19, 20, something like that for all of my ministers. He has, however, very good loyalty, which is nice. The loyalty will come into play. It comes into play during some events, I think, as well, but it mostly comes into play when a rebellion breaks out. If your ministers have low loyalty, like, this guy is terrible, this guy is really terrible, when you have low loyalty, they can join the rebellion, and you cannot really do much with them at that point. They will just generate the strength for the rebellion and make it last longer and have more impact. And then there is charisma. This one generally just improves how your people are happy and how they interact with your empire. So it should come into play mostly here. Yes, you get happiness from courtiers, from governors, and from others. So when you look, I'm actually really happy with the guy that's running our treasury, which influences how much money we gain, and he generates savings. We can also see that he will have a 55% chance to generate a good audience event and 45% to generate a bad one, which is actually much higher than I'm used to. Yeah, it's a big difference between difficulty 5 and 6. This guy, our war minister, is actually even better. He has a slightly lower loyalty, but still amazing, and he has competence of 19. So the ministry, as you can see, now has an efficiency of 19.57. We can expand ministry offices, spending either our own treasury or government money with a lot of influence or administrative points. And that will give him, every time we do it, a 5% bonus to his efficiency. You want these, of course, as high as possible because, again, it generates better events. And you also get a tactical bonus during war, for example, for the Ministry of War. Now, internal affairs is actually extremely bad, and I never ever think had a guy in our internal affairs so bad. Not only is this guy abysmal when it comes to his competence, he's actually extremely low on the loyalty scale. And internal affairs ministry is very important because that's the one that actually lowers the rebellion gain. So you can see that this guy is really not doing us any favors. So not only are we getting a huge amount from unhappiness, but he's also doing a pretty bad job at lowering it. So replacing the internal affairs minister is going to be our primary goal. We're actually going to replace pretty much everyone except for the war minister. I think he can stay, and even the treasury guy could stay, but if we find someone better, we'll switch them. But the internal affairs guy needs to go almost immediately. Foreign affairs guy has a high loyalty, not a great competence, but I don't really care all that much apart from the events. He provides bonus to diplomats which interact with aliens, which is, pretty good, pretty important. Justice guy lowers corruption. He's not terrible, could be much better, but again, my priority goal would be to get all of our ministries at 20 or higher. When it comes to competence. So in order, internal affairs needs to go. I'll probably do the justice guy next. Jacob Hill needs to go because his effectiveness is not that great. Then foreign affairs, because I do not consider them as that important. Then probably treasury, and then war. And last we got protocol guy, who is a ceremonial role, but his loyalty comes into play, and of course his charisma. So it would probably make sense to get someone very charismatic in this role. I never thought about that, but he could help us with the happiness. Alright, so what we will do here with the internal affairs guy is we are going to replace him by someone in the court. But the part that actually comes into play as well is the fact that each one of these ministers is affiliated with one of the great houses, which is the next thing that we need to look into. So we have the royal House Aurelian, which is us, and then we have these 6 noble houses: the House Larducan, the House Armistar, the House Reshelvi, the House Delford, the House Windhard, and House Gerson. Now each one of these has an authority and a monarchism. Each one of these has relations with us, which is based on the opinion, and they have various other things that come into play. They also have minor houses which further boost their authority and monarchism. And these houses generally have a couple of important roles that they play. First, they make your heart more difficult by actually interacting with you throughout your audiences and coming up with random demands and generally just being a nuisance. But they also either generate or lower the support for rebels. So, for example, the Great House Larducan is most likely helping us in reducing the amount of rebel points that we are getting, while the Great House Windhard and Great House Gerson are probably actually generating extra rebel points because they're uncooperative. Now, the moment they drop to hostile is the moment where they really start ramping up the rebellions against you. So your very important task is to keep these relations as high as possible and balance them out, sometimes even against each other, to make sure that they do not generate too high of a rebel support. They also have certain traditions here that you can see. We have, for example, the Larducan has a tradition of warlord house, So this tradition requires relations cordial or better to be activated. If relations faulty, uncooperative, or worse, the tradition will be deactivated. These come to the effect as you mobilize or lose the houses. So we can see that we have one of two warlord traditions here, meaning currently we get beam weapons accuracy increased, so our ships are working better. The extra fighter agility, and we get extra ground combat. We're also having a pretty good situation with the skilled administration. We're gaining a lot of extra administrative points. We have a little bit of industrial bonus, so extra food and minerals processing efficiency, which is very valuable. Extra cunning merchants, so extra base tax, which is at full, and we get extra propaganda experts. Now, if we could get Vinhard and House Garrison to rise above on a cooperative, we would also get extra warlord tradition and the extra industrial that we're losing. Now, the Great Council here will come into play a little bit later once the game kicks in, and they will pass on extra laws and initiatives or not, depending on how you interact with them. The finances again come into play when it comes to your imperial treasury, so we don't really need to speak about those much. It is important to keep in mind that you can change some of the tax levels here, which will make people hate you less or be a little bit happier with you. You can also allocate budget, but we'll look into this as we are actually going to move through the game because it's mostly reactive. Industry we also spoke about. This is again generalized. The important part here is that you can spend money and administrative points to boost the amount of food processors or mineral refineries, and it increases the overall, I would say, performance of your economy, I guess. The number here, food processing efficiency and minerals refining efficiency, will go up as you go. There is a certain cap for manufacturing output, which is based on your planets and cities. There really is no limit, as far as I know, from or on your food processed. So right now we would need at least 120 food. We have only 65, so it's going to be our priority to get more food processing and of course get more food from our planets. Now, military works a really similar way as your court. Your fleets are being represented by these admirals, and as I said, they also have vice admirals and other readers here. Some of them are really not great. Like, if you can already see that this Commodore has a very low loyalty, which is something that we should probably deal with. In the beginning, we can only actually work with our own fleet, which is our Emperor's Dog. These fleets are aligned to the great houses. They each have a little bit of their own strength. So Duke's Finest, for example, have 100 strength. Space Vanquishers have 94. And these fleets actually operate on a generalized basis here. So you can see that, for example, the Duke's Finest are covering northwest, north, and northeast sectors, which are marked when you click on these planets. You can see what sectors they actually are, and you can see here some of the strengths. Right now, it's only marking Terra, where we have the border guard, but our fleets, I think, are already spread out over the sectors. So you can sort of focus on what your fleets are going to be doing and where. I never really used it, and I want to start using it in this playthrough. We're going to look a little bit at it right now because it's something that I actually want to set up immediately. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually remove all of the sectors for our own fleet, and we are going to use this fleet as a focus one, which is going to focus on attack, while everybody else is going to be either balanced or more focusing on defense. So we're going to have Duke's Finest focus on northwest, north, and northeast. You guys are going to be southwest, south, and southeast. And we are going to work with you guys in this way. You're going to have these three sectors. You're going to have these three sectors. So now we cover all the border sectors with and the ones in the corners having coverage from 2 fleets, which means you guys actually need to go like this, and you guys will need to go like this. So all of our sectors at this point, if I'm reading it correctly, should have 2 fleets operating in them, and our own fleet is actually not operating anywhere. Now I'm gonna move here to the actual map, and I'm gonna show you how you interact with the planets. You interact with them very simply. You basically claim a planet by clicking on it, and now the game will automatically send out forces to, well, not colonize actually, they're going to establish an outpost on these planets. In a couple of turns, these planets are actually going to fall to us. You can also claim the planets a little bit further ahead, but currently the outpost construction is impossible because they are too far away. But I'm still going to claim them just so that we know what we're going to go after. So these nearby will be claimed immediately, and then the game is going to start claiming the ones behind. Now when it comes to Nas, which is 1 point away from Terra, we want to claim this one as well. It's being currently occupied by the Hive, which is a Xeno race. Now the aliens in this game are split between 2 different categories. You have the actual aliens, which you can negotiate with, you can talk with them, you can have relations with them, you can trade with them, and the Xenos, which are, well, easily said, these are the evil ones. You cannot really do anything with these, you will only fight them. I am getting strong Warhammer 40k vibe out of this, and I really like it because it differentiates the aliens and actually makes a lot of sense. Like the Hive itself cannot be negotiated with. So the Hive is the only Xeno race that we actually see at this point, I think. Yes, and they almost completely surround us actually, and that's not a great situation. So let's look at the Hive, what the game tells us about it. The Hive is controlled by local overminds, which seem to have some sort of intelligence. Regular broodlings are mindless workers and warriors, awesome ground combatants, so this is really important. They will be much tougher to fight on the planets themselves. Biology. Bug-like savage aliens that live in a hive-like structure, mostly mindless except for overminds. A young overmind spawns on the planet and exerts some sort of mind control over all hive organisms. The range of an overmind reaches several jumps from their location and weakens over distances. The farther from the local overmind, the weaker and smaller the force of the hive is. They go on a periodic sprees of expansion, highly predictable in timing, possibly something connected with their biology. Society is unknown. Overmind seems to be the leaders and only sentient beings in the hive structure, but such explanation is questioned by many xenoscientists as too simplified. The popular theory is they lack coordinated planning or leadership since they have expanded in so many directions at once. Technology. Bioships that are part of the Hive, similar living cannons to defend planets. Strong melee warriors that are core of their ground forces. Overall, the technology is inferior, but they make up for it in numbers. They actually do, because they currently have 21.72% of the galaxy. So they really do have a lot. They have some descriptions here: primitive Xeno race, extremely vicious, allowed to deal with by any means available, genocide preferable. Yes, we have no diplomacy available with them. Cyclic attacks, totally mindless attacks, they just breed forces and launch to nearby planets. They have overminds, they have bioships, they have no infrastructures, but they devastate planets. So that's not great. We don't really have that much espionage information on them probably, but we know they have corvettes, frigates, and cruisers. Average squadron tonnage is 15. We could go with mass orders, meaning we can claim all frontiers planets, claim all planets of this race, and so on, but we're not gonna really do that. We want to be a little bit more meticulous. So Nas is gonna be attacked by us. It's a south sector, and thus I know that I'm gonna send my own fleet against them. I'm actually pretty unhappy with the performance of our admiral, but at this point I'm not gonna be that concerned with that. We're instead gonna focus on the ministries. So, alright, as I said, we also have these guys, the Xenos that we can talk with. I'm gonna focus them all on trade alliance, which is the best in my opinion. We want to trade with them, gain a little bit more money. I very rarely actually attack these aliens because usually you can talk with them and they leave you alone, or at least they did. As you can see, they are not that big. Man, the Hive and Slugs have 217 and 200 planets, so they, together with the Cyber March, have almost half of the galaxy. That's crazy. It's gonna be rough. That's gonna be rough. Alright, anyway, we have talked a lot about the fights now and about our ministries. Now let's actually try to deal with the internal affairs guy. So we can see that he's from the House Aurelius. And do we have anyone else from House Aurelius who would be a little bit better? House Aurelius. So that's you, isn't it? It is. And we actually have an amazing guy here right off the bat. He has competence of 18 and loyalty of 21. Alright, I don't really think we need to think about this much. We are going to appoint you as the Minister of Interior. You are House Aurelius. Yes. So I'm gonna wait, what was your charisma is 17, but yeah, we don't want you. So I can't actually fire him. I don't have enough administrative points. Alright, so we'll have to wait a turn. I think we're getting 35. Yes, we'll be able to actually fire him next turn. But I'm not sure if we can. That's a good question. If we can appoint that guy the same turn, because that also costs. Yeah, it costs a lot of points. So we need 300 points to do it. So we'll actually change it in about 5 to 6 turns. Alright, so that's what we're gonna do as our first thing. Now, when it comes to research, we already have certain research done in the sociology. So you can see that we have all of these technologies actually researched, which increase food production, food processing efficiency, military education. We get bonuses to tax efficiency, bureaucracy upkeep, special units which suppress rebels during rebellion, squadron command school, and food and mineral investment. And we have 2 more technologies here that we can go with: squadron command or city service. I'm actually going to go with city services. That improves the base city's output, and I'm gonna put each of these as level 2. I'm gonna put 1 extra on sociology because we have higher level technologies here. Once we have the city services done, we're gonna get, let's get the city planning next. So we're gonna research city services and then city planning. By the way, a really cool thing, these technologies are randomized, so you never know what you're gonna get. Every playthrough is a little bit different. Construction, we can go with light assault hulls or recon units, and ship modernization. Okay, let's go with ship modernization. That might help us a little bit more in the beginning. Energy. Okay, this one is just a theory, so you can't really get anything from that. But then we can get shields, which is going to make our ships better. Quite significant. Construction. Oh yes, we're gonna get cheap colonization modules, because that grants us additional colonization ship. You start with only 1, but the more ships you have, the faster your empire grows. Electronics. Computers are not bad, but we need food processing. So let's get food processing, but then I'm gonna go for computers actually, because I want those. That is a flat bonus to your ships. And City Cyber Major, that actually helps with base cities output, so we already have a pretty decent thing. We have 8 here, and we're getting, what was it, sociology? Yes, that's additional 5 and 10, so that's gonna help the output of our cities quite significantly. And biochemistry, we can get thrusters and armor, or particle beams, or or happiness. Yeah, we have to go with happiness. And then we get plant processing and food conservation. Yes, we need those. And then I'm gonna just come back and go with thrusters and armor, because that's also important. Alright, so we have set the research. We have set the plan in regards to our noble houses. Well, actually, no, not the noble houses. We have set the plan to our court. But because we're going to have an audience in 2 turns, I think I'm going to already jump and organize a banquet, which would really help us significantly. We do have a lot of money. So let's go with a lavish banquet. That's actually going to give us other options throughout the banquet, how to influence the noble houses, increase the relations. That's something that I would really like to do. And it's going to be really hard to get this house higher up, but it should be relatively easy to get the house garrison higher up, because they get 2 grudges. And grudges are something that you can deal with. The house grudges, each one of them gives you a further reduction in relation. So if we can remove the grudge here, talking to Lady Camilla Garson, we can resolve one of those grudges and they should immediately be bumped to neutral. Alright, which is good. Now we have 2 houses on neutral, 2 on cordial, and 1 on union. So we're going to try to get the house Windhard higher up. We could do certain things like official celebration here. We could write them a personal letter, send them some stuff, but I'm gonna refrain from that because I want to keep the administrative points to affect our ministries, because we really need to switch the internal affairs guy as fast as possible. Alright, finances, I'm thinking, do we want to lower the tax? We might go with average. That would increase the happiness significantly. So let's do that, see how we will affect the rebel points generation. Industry we've done. There's 4 projects we should think about. Imperial Palace expansion. It costs 1,000 per turn. It will take 50 turns to do that, but I don't think we can actually do that right now. Propaganda Center increases loyalty of planets. Industrial Complex gives extra base cities output. And Law Enforcement Agency security rating on all planets. I would most likely go with the Industrial Complex first. The reason for that is, I haven't spoken about this yet, and I apologize, it's yet another mechanic that you need to keep in mind. If we increase the mineral availability by getting more minerals from our planets, increasing the mineral or the refining efficiency, we will produce more ships per turn. Right now we're producing about 25 per turn, and we have only 1,225 squadrons out of 1,665 available to us. And we're going to start bleeding squadrons really quickly because we border Hive, so there's going to be a lot of fighting right from the bat. So we need to keep this in mind and monitor the amount of ships we have available. If it starts dropping, we'll be in a big problem really quickly, and I think that it would also make quite a lot of sense to actually maybe even outright fire you. Although we're not gonna really help much, because when we fire our admiral, I think it's the vice admiral who gets promoted, and he's not much better. He's actually the same guy really. And we would get, I think the Commodore would be promoted to Vice Admiral, so they all move up. And we have one of these guys with very terrible loyalty. We would have to fire both the Admiral and the Vice Admiral and the Commodore, and then we would have a pretty good people available. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Alright. Anything else we want to do right now before we jump at it? I think we are actually doing relatively good here. A long, crazy explanation, but I think at this point we are actually available to end the turn. Oh god, our governor is also really bad, but he's very loyal I could summon him and fire him, I think, but yeah, let's do that a little bit later. He's part of development. I don't think he's directly affecting. Yeah, he's just affecting the infrastructure points we're getting, not exactly the harvesting. Alright, but we have to keep in mind he's very loyal, has a high charisma, but he's very incompetent. So alright, let's end the turn, our first turn, and see what's gonna happen. So alright, we've ended the turn, and you will now see that we got a bunch of things happening. We are currently working on all of these outposts, as you guys probably remember from what I said in the beginning. Again, we're not really doing anything with these ones because they are too far away. But what also happened is that our fleet has actually moved to Nas and they're fighting here. So we have 13 defensive installations here and 4 space forces of the enemy, but our space force is of the strength of 55 here actually. We get 15 strategic reserves, and the 1st and 3rd fleet actually operate here now, and they are attacking. We've also started dropping ground forces. We have 18, and they get 72. They get 72 strength. We have 19.8 coming out of this 18. So once our forces on the ground become stronger than their forces on the ground, we will clear them out from the planet and we will claim it for ourselves. That's how the combat works. Now, the fight and the ground combat is actually very complex. As I mentioned, it's one of the things that I mentioned before. This is calculated from all the things that we have done so far, and it will be very detailed in the background. So the calculations there are, the battle is actually very, I would say, it's simulated to a very big degree of a detail, but you just see these base numbers unless you simulate the battle yourself. So you can see we already have a war report here. Our forces have engaged enemy at Nas. You get the information here about it. We are fighting there. Did we actually see how many? Yes, we destroyed 20 enemy squadrons and we have lost 17 of ours. We are also exploring the territories. This is going to happen in the background. I actually don't really care much about it. It's really good to look at the planets that are surrounding you, but I cannot keep in mind all of the planets, so I usually do it as the turns will go by. So the exploration, it's kind of interesting to see what kind of planets there are. This is an extremely good planet. It has very high ore deposits, but it's very far away, so but we might go after it soon enough. And our admiral is actually giving us a report about Nas, and that our fleet of 1 has commenced an attack currently held by the Hive. The 24 enemy squadrons were identified. We have sent 39 squadrons, and we have seen our offensive forces as insufficient, so they automatically requested strategic reserves to join them. So we got 15 extra, and the 3rd fleet assisted with additional 18 squadrons. So when we look at the number of ships, we now have 1235. We built 27 and we have lost 17. So far, so good. I'm gonna end the episode here. The reason for that is that the next turn is going to be quite hectic. We're gonna have our first audience, which will give us the option to actually interact with the court and all of the great houses. So I apologize for not showing you that in this one, but the next turn might take a good 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm gonna just end the episode here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just fire them in the comments. I would be happy to answer them. I'm always trying to do my series in a bit of a tutorial way. I know this might seem like a lot of information in the beginning, but I hope that you will be able to follow through the playthrough with me based on that. And as I said, I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, you guys take care.